Hey everyone, Glenn Sanford here, and this is the Expansion Podcast. And today I'm excited to talk to Vicki Stevenson. She's actually a four-time ICON agent out of Flossmore, Illinois, which I just learned is about 40 minutes south of Chicago. Vicki, thanks for jumping on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm delighted.
So now, what now we're you're Flossmore. You've been in the business for a few years. Maybe you can just tell me a little bit about your background. What got you into real estate? What has been your journey in this fine industry?
Sure. I've had a very interesting journey, I think. I have real estate in my bones. My grandmother actually bought property in Homewood back in the 40s and, moved houses, when they're being going to be otherwise demolished and, use them as rentals and things like that. So, she kind of planted that bug in the whole family. But no one really did it. I grew up in New York. My father was part of CBS News. My mother also worked in television. And then one day they decided to buy a farm in Michigan. So I went from suburban New York to rural Michigan and met my now husband in high school there. We were high school sweethearts. After college, I decided to go to law school and went to law school, but my path did not take me into practicing law. I actually started a computer consulting company with my late husband, and we started kind of building some houses. And so we built a vacation house and we worked on other houses locally. After he passed, then I kept that going and I started buying houses that needed renovating. So I bought and renovated myself with help,
Right?
houses, rented them, connected with my high school sweetheart again. We married and we started doing that together. Then he suggested that maybe we should stop spending our own money doing all of that and start helping other people buy and sell houses. And I got my license and he got his license a couple years later. And we've been doing this for a little over 7 years and have been top of our market since year 3.
Okay. Now, what's the population of the area you work in? I'm not familiar with Flossmore, so
Right.
I'm assuming.
Home, Homewood and Flossmore are neighboring towns, and we're kind of considered 2 villages, but 1 community. So a lot of things are shared. We have the Park District is shared. The high school is HF High School. So a lot of those things are together. So we work in both communities kind of equally. And, we certainly do an awful lot in Flossmore, which is where we live. They're tiny little towns. Flossmore has about 8,000 and Homewood a bit more. And it's been fun being a part of this community and really working to sell the communities as well as sell people's houses and help people buy houses. It's working with the communities as well.
Okay. And so when I look at like your website address, HF-Homes, I think, does that
Mhm.
stand for Homewood Flossmore? Is that what
It,
HF is?
it it is. It's Homewood Flossmoor, and and everyone around here they kind of consider them one and the same. There's definite differences between them, especially in housing stock. Flossmoor was built around golf courses, and so it has kind of older, grander homes for the most part, whereas Homewood was built as more of a working class. So there's a little bit more of a starter home feel there, but there's definitely crossover and there's grand, beautiful homes in Homewood and starter homes in Flossmoor as well. But that's kind of the difference between them.
Okay. So I'm reading you have a motto, which everything is going to be all right.
Mhm.
Is that how does that play into your marketing or any of that? Is that something that you use regularly, or is it just something that kind of came up in sort of the interview
That
process for the podcast?
Th- No, that is actually something. It was my father's motto to the point where The art department at CBS News had a stamp made and did a portrait of him using the stamp saying everything is going to be all right. And he lived by that motto. And I live by that motto too. And I think that calmness and that assuredness that everything is going to be all right is part of the reason that I've been successful in working with buyers and sellers, on something that is a very major transaction for them. It's very anxiety producing and scary and sometimes extremely emotional. And being able to bring that motto of everything is going to be all right into how I approach working with people, I think gives them a little bit more reassurance that everything is going to be all right, even if things aren't going exactly the way they planned.
Okay. Well, makes sense. And I wish I would have had that motto when I was actively selling because it's pretty stressful for the agent as well. It can be. And with a model like that, it could calm the nerves when you're trying to juggle the emotions related to a transaction. So
Mhm.
I love the phrase. Now,
Well, thanks.
now you've been, I think, what I think maybe started at Coldwell Banker and then moved to EXP. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, I started at Coldwell Banker. It had a lot of what I was looking for. I enjoyed the atmosphere, having an office that was right in downtown Flossmore, which was directly in between both of my children's schools. So, starting out and re-entering the workforce as a mom, it made a lot of sense to me. Working from home wasn't really an option as much then. So having an office to go to where I could still be very involved in my kids' schools and things like that was very important to me. Um, they they decided to move out of our area, and I knew that that was the time for me to start looking for another opportunity. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who used to live here. She and her husband had moved to North Carolina and became agents as a domestic team, which is what my husband and I are. And she had been kind of talking to me about EXP for a little bit, and I had not been ready to hear about it yet. And so when I was starting to be ready to hear, I reached out to her and said, "Hey, Debbie, tell me a little bit more." And she was kind enough to be gentle with me, knowing that this was not something to be pressured into. But also brought in people like Healy Tace and Rich Tomasini to talk to us more and give us a different perspectives on joining this, because it was a little bit hard for us to grasp at first, because it was such a
Right.
disruptor to the regular model. So it was so nice having people who were so willing to talk to us and explain the model to us in a way that, it finally clicked and we're like, yeah, this is where we want to be.
Okay. Excellent. Um, So I didn't pick up on this earlier when we started our chat, but you've got
Mhm.
two posters in the background there. So is this your office? So when you do a Zoom
This
call, you're sort of kind of create a connection?
this is my office. Yeah, I will say I maybe made it look a little better for this than it usually does. I had a full brick and mortar in downtown Flossmore, not because I needed it, because I can do everything I need to do for EXP anywhere, but more because I like having a presence in the community, and supporting our downtown as well. Since then, somebody else who needed that space a little bit more took it over, and I'm now in an office still downtown, but not a separate brick and mortar. And it works out great because there are still clients, particularly older clients, who prefer to meet me in the office, and I can do that with them. And but I love the fact that I could be here. We can be at our lake house in Indiana. I could be visiting my son in Boston and still be able to do all the work that I need to do with all the tools that we have.
Oh, excellent. And do you take your posters and like roll them up and take them to Boston so they're in the background?
No, I don't do that. That's a great idea, though. Maybe I'll make this my like fake Zoom background, moving
There you
forward.
go. No, fun. So, Now, what are you doing? Like, you mentioned supporting people who are looking to maybe fix and flip or buy for investment, but how do you source your clients? What do you do for lead gen?
Well, we'll work with anybody, as far as, the fix and flip doesn't happen an awful lot around here. We're dealing with a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of people downsizing as well. But the way we get clients is we do what we call hyper local marketing. And in fact, I teach a class on this in the world in the ICON series. And it's how we've gotten successful is that we have made this area our niche, and we really do things that support our community and explain to people how we are the experts in the community, and how we can support them in making their sale or their purchase with as much expertise as we can provide them, and with that calmness that everything's going to be all right brings along with it. So when I teach the class, I talk about things like being very active in your community in ways that are not necessarily expensive. For new agents, it's very hard to put too much cash on the line, as you're trying to develop your business. So I'm a big believer in volunteering, being involved in the local government, helping out at schools. Sometimes we have a booth or help out at a booth for, a village event or a charity event. We have house walks around here. That's one of our big charity events where people open up their homes for tours. We have a Frank Lloyd Wright house in town, things like that. So these are, exciting houses for people to see. So, I'm always down. It's just like an open house, and I'm thrilled to, get people into houses and show them that way. But all these things go together and, put you out as an expert in your area. And then, it kind of snowballs. People think of me when they think of, buying or selling in Homewood and Flossmore.
Awesome. So what is right now it's just you and your husband? Do you have an assistant or?
I do. I have a part-time transaction coordinator, which is great because while I'm really good at dealing with people, crossing the T's and dotting the I's is something that I can use support on, and she's great at that. But my husband and I work as a domestic team. We do have several other agents as part of our Flossmore office that are part of our downline. And, it's great because we support each other too. One just called me. She's like, "Hey, I'm going on vacation for a few days. Can you, show that, clients a house there?" Or, other times we'll, cover each other's inspections, all those things, that an office supports each other on without us having to be in the office all the time. We're just supportive of each other.
Oh, excellent. And then how do you manage all of your conversations? Do you have a favorite CRM?
I do. So I use KV Core, and I use KV Core probably to the 10th of what its availability is. There's so much out there, and one of my goals for 2024 is to get a little bit more automated, which KV Core can do for me. So I use that, and a couple other things that help me with my time management, which is always a challenge in real estate because you're getting pulled in a lot of directions. You get a call, you feel like you need to take it, or a showing comes up last minute and it kind of throws you off. So the time management stuff helps as well.
Excellent. Now, current economy, obviously we saw interest rates just jump dramatically last year. They're starting to moderate a bit.
Hmm.
Are you noticing more activity in the market? Has it started has that started to play a role? I mean, obviously this is also a slower time of the year, so it might be hard to
Right.
measure, but are you seeing some more demand?
I think there's about to be. I'm getting more calls now about getting things ready for the spring, which is great. Always that period between Thanksgiving and New Year's is a little bit of a slower area. But I've had savvy sellers say, "Let's get it up now. There's nothing else on the market." And so, we just put one live yesterday, and we are seeing more demand. I have a lot of buyers who just haven't had the right house come along yet. because we haven't had the inventory. And I think that's going to change in the spring, which is excellent news. And, I think a lot of the people who perhaps bought or refinanced when rates were, 2.5%, and have felt like it's a golden noose around their neck. They can't move and lose that rate, especially when it was up, 7, 8%, that they are now going to start loosening that a little bit if they start seeing rates, trend a little bit lower.
Yeah, I saw some people post on social of rates under 6%. So I don't know
Mm.
exactly. I mean, I'm not super tied into to rates specifically, but just seeing that happen is certainly welcome news for those who've been sort of almost priced out of the market because of interest rates for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. And we've tried to encourage people to not be scared of the rates simply because if the rates drop, especially if they drop quickly, we're going to have another flood of buyers into the market for still low inventory. And, they'll be fighting the multiple offers and everything again. Whereas if you were to get into something before rates take a big jump, you could always refinance down the road and not necessarily be fighting as hard to get a house as you would be once the rates drop.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of obviously logic to that. You tie up the house that you really want, and if rates go down, then you can refinance. But if rates go up, you're still locked in at whatever you're at. So you
Exactly.
have the benefits, whereas the mortgage companies are actually the ones that take most of the risk because interest rates go down. Guess what? Their mortgages go away because people refinance.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
consumers definitely get the advantage. So, last question. What one piece of advice would you give to EXP agents if you could give them just one piece?
I think the piece of advice that I often give to my mentees, I'm a mentor for the company as well, is to treat this like your own business because it is. We have the benefit of all of the things that EXP offers us. We have amazing marketing things that are just provided to us. We have training, tons of training, more so than I ever expected, and certainly that I ever experienced at another brokerage. But you still have to take the initiative to do that, and you do sometimes have to invest your own money to on a business too. So you have to prepare to invest in yourself as your business in order to move forward. And sometimes, that's a little bit of money, but it also is a lot of time. And so if you take the time to invest in your own business, nothing in this business gets completely handed to you. You have to make the efforts for it.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. Vicki, thank you so much for jumping on today. This great conversation. Great to learn a little bit more about, well, I'll learn a little bit. Everything I learned about Homewood and Flossmore, I learned on this podcast episode. Uh, so
Well, if
thank
you're
you
in
for that.
Chicago, I would love to give you a tour.
Oh, there you go. Well, sounds good. I'll probably work on doing it at a warmer time of year because it's starting to get cold. I know January
Yeah,
can be brutal.
brutal.
Um, yeah, and but thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening to this latest podcast. So with that, we'll say over and out.
All right. Thanks, Glenn.